So intense, it will change the very nature of things, including natural gas. So intense, it will reshape the elements of composition. But coal that creates a substance which can be transported to where it is needed. Once there, its elements reformed, it becomes once again a natural power source. Deep below the surface of the Earth, beneath the sea that ebbed and flowed over it for millions of years, are reservoirs of natural gas created when the world was young. Carbon life forms, the elements of which, trapped and squeezed by the great movements of the Earth's crust, were subjected to intense heat and cold, and then fused into condensate and gas, which lay untapped for millennia. Massive gas reservoirs were discovered here on Australia's northwest shelf by the joint venture in 1971. Today, remote control vehicles work beside white pointers in a submarine environment. They serve as a platform that was positioned over the reservoir. Today, it forms a man-made reef, attracting marine life. A watching camera captures a unique view of the gigantic legs, which stand like a mysterious forest reaching down over 125 meters to the seabed. Sometimes the song of migrating whales echoes around them. Today, the surface looks calm, but this man-made island is on the cyclone belt. It's designed to withstand high winds and devastating waves. The platform has stood firm throughout many cyclones. During the night before these pictures were taken, the waves below had reached a height of 20 meters. The wind, a howling 250 kilometers per hour. Next day, the cyclone over, the platform stood unmoved, a tribute to its design and construction. Having tapped the gas, the next challenge was to transport it the 134 kilometers to shore. For this, a submarine pipeline was laid from the platform at North Rankin A to the Burrup Peninsula. High above the Burrup, a sea eagle circles. From his vantage point, the peninsula stretches out below, in some places fringed with mangroves, like a crooked finger pointing the way along the Tropic of Capricorn. As you fly toward its red rocky coast, you begin to perceive how old it is. It's a coastline that few humans have walked. Rocks lie still frozen in the attitudes in which they were created. Much of it lies beneath a carpet of spinifex. Here and there, the trunks of white gums shine up like signposts. The heat at ground level can often climb over 40 degrees Celsius and stay there. A waterless country. The only pools, dark shadows cast by rocks. On those rocks, traces of the first human presence, now carefully preserved for the future by its custodians, slowly bleach in the sun. Many of the animal species drawn thousands of years ago still thrive here. The next challenge then, to build a processing plant for the arriving gas. Place it near the sea that beats on the rocky coastline. Design it to withstand the extraordinary forces of nature, long periods of intense heat, cyclonic gales, and occasionally torrential rain. Above all, to blend it into a unique, harsh landscape, an expensive task. There was only one way to start. at rock bottom. Having built a domestic gas plant supplying the needs of Western Australia into the 21st century, work started on the site for the massive LNG, liquefied natural gas, processing plant, cooling the gas to liquid for shipment to Japan. A 200-hectare site was carved from the uncompromising land. Over 6 million cubic meters of earth and rock were repositioned. It took money, muscle, and time. The bones of the Burrup were laid bare. Then, with the help of lasers, the ground was graded to billiard table tolerances. The foundations for the 250-meter trains, structures for the cooling and liquefaction of the gas were completed. Work commenced on the jetty, which was to receive the fleet of tankers, shipping the LNG to Japan. Its supports driven deep into the hard, almost impenetrable rock. Ashore, above the foundations of the train, a skeleton of steel to carry the thousands of meters of pipework began to take shape. While throughout Australia and across the world, in England, Europe and America, pieces of the giant jigsaw began fabrication, assembly and shipment to the remote peninsula. A huge investment in time and money. Logistically, it required coordination of the highest order. Components made in Italy had to fit exactly with equipment manufactured in France, America, and ultimately in Australia, where over 70% of the contracts were executed. There was no room for error. Containers made to minute tolerances and of great size began to take shape. In the cryogenic heat exchanger, the very heart of the liquefaction process, over 1,500 kilometers of aluminium tubing were wound. From around Australia, from Sydney, Melbourne and Perth, came other specialized parts. The road trains rolled in. "5 a.m. on the Burrup. Traffic from the construction camp starts to build. As dawn breaks, a workforce of over 4,000 floods through the gates, a pool of highly skilled labor from all over Australia. The jetty is growing. One by one, the piles are driven into the rock. It's hard, difficult work. One by one, key pieces arrive and are put into place. The plant is growing. The first heat exchanger arrives from America. When the hold is opened, it looks like a gift from NASA. Its journey from the jetty is captured by the time-lapse camera. After the sweltering day, evening brings relief and the site assumes a different feel. A petrified forest of mobile cranes, among them the largest in the world, capable of lifting 1,200 tons. Even at night, the work goes on. In the laydown areas, hundreds of thousands of parts wait to be checked and taken to their destinations. The air-fin coolers are assembled before being swung into position on top of the train. The maze of scaffolding is finally removed, and miraculously, you can drive down the length of the completed train. It is now possible to follow the process of cleaning, cooling, and liquefying the gas easily. First, the sulfonal column. Natural gas enters the column where it is brought into contact with a solvent, sulfonal, in a process which removes carbon dioxide from the gas. Then the dehydration unit. In the dehydration unit, the gas is cooled to 21 degrees Celsius, and the water is removed by molecular sieve dryer beds. Further down the train, the scrub column. Here, the heavier gases are removed and sent to the fractionation plant to produce refrigerants. The cryogenic heat exchanger. The heart of the liquefaction process, where the gas is cooled against the mixed refrigerant to minus 138 degrees Celsius, at which temperature it is liquefied. The LNG is then further cooled to minus 161 degrees Celsius and travels through these pipes to the storage tanks. The 4 tanks buried in man-made mountains are like huge vacuum flasks, capable of holding a total 260,000 cubic meters of LNG. They started out as holes in the ground, slowly taking shape until buried up to the neck in rock. They were then ready to have the huge domed roofs raised. Inside, the atmosphere is a cross between a cathedral and a spaceport. During construction, access is by tunnel through the thickness of the rock that protects and insulates the tank. Then down the vertical sides of the lining, between the outside wall and the tank itself. Here, the slightest noise is magnified. Sound reverberates around the tank's smooth circumference, seemingly forever. Inside, the time-lapse camera follows the tightening of the straps holding the ceiling in position as the roof lift begins. The ceiling rumbles upwards, looking like a spaceship in a Spielberg movie. It's all done by air pressure. The sealed tank has exactly half a psi more than the outside atmosphere, so the roof goes up. Over the following weeks, the tank is pressure tested with water. Inside the tank, the noise is shattering as it cascades to the bottom. Then the insulation coat is sprayed, and the tank is ready to receive its 65,000 cubic meters of liquid gas. (1989), and the LNG plant is ready, ahead of schedule and on budget. 4 years of planning and work are over. Gas starts to flow through its veins and arteries, the 270 kilometers of pipe. Walking through the towering shapes, illuminated by thousands of lights, one shares a sense of pride in accomplishment. Here is something remarkable, an oasis of technology set in an ancient landscape, elements of time and energy. Dawn, and the plant is beginning to hum. Turbines are turning. Gas is flowing. It's coming to life. Fingers of light touch the tallest columns. Even by day, the structures have another dimension, a functional elegance. The sun climbs higher in the sky. The great silver city is ready. Near its center, its heart, the control room. An ordinary corridor, hard hats and coats on the wall. But through this door waits the 21st century. Meeting here, tendrils of information, impulses of energy transmit the pulse, temperature and pressure from the enormous functioning body of the plant. The entire process is monitored. Here it continues from the moment the gas and condensate arrive on the shore to the moment it departs on the ship. Millions of kilojoules of energy controlled at the press of a button. Again, a space station comes to mind, and indeed, space technology does play its part. With some of this technology, it is possible to have a privileged view of the plant through the eye of the thermographic camera. As the gas journeys through the process, getting colder, we can see a fantastic world invisible to the human eye. The camera reads the varying heat levels from white for hot to blue for cold. All the tanks are fully charged with LNG. The next stage is to transport it down to the jetty and the loading arms. The jetty is also complete, a total of 285 supports, holding a service roadway and superstructure for pipework. At its end, the tall delivery arms that will discharge the LNG to the waiting vessel. The jetty stands ready to receive the first of a 7-tanker fleet. Through a curtain of welcoming spray from its attending tugs, the Northwest Sandling arrives from its maiden voyage. 93,000 tons capable of carrying 125,000 cubic meters of LNG with a value of in excess of $10 million. With her sister ships, the Northwest Swift, Swallow, Snipe, Shearwater, Sandpiper and Sea Eagle, she will journey the 7,300 nautical miles to and from Japan, exporting a total of 6 million tons per year. We compress her 10-day voyage into 70 seconds as she departs to make the first delivery to Japan. While at sea, the ship can use energy from its cargo as the LNG boils off at minus 161 degrees Celsius. From the Tropic of Capricorn to the Tropic of Cancer and beyond, the ship follows the old trade route. On a misty morning, she quietly slips alongside the delivery terminal. The last part of the jigsaw is falling into place. Appropriately, her namesake, the tiny sandling, also makes the journey to Japan from the Burrup. The final link between Australia and Japan is made, as the delivery arms are connected. Soon, energy from deep below a sea half a world away will flow into the power and gas system of Japan. As the LNG is discharged, the intense cold gradually creates a Christmas cake frosting on the pipes. Then changed once more from the intense cold of its liquid state, the gas becomes part of the everyday life of Japan. Houses like this one are powered by electricity and gas from 8 major buyers of Australian LNG. Some of that electricity drives the wheel of one of the nation's most respected potters. The elements which have created the gas, earth, air, fire and water, are drawn together again as the clay takes shape. The heat of the gas-fired kiln fuses those elements, and like the gas itself, they take on a second life. As well as supplying a significant share of the energy needed by Japanese industry, energy from LNG can also be focused, its elements embodied in a pure art form, using materials as ancient as the Burrup. The result, as sophisticated a design as the process itself. Both in their way, the cutting edge of technology. 25 years of endeavor and $12 billion investment have made this the biggest project of its kind in Australian history. Since the Northwest Sandling completed her historic maiden voyage in 1989, the Northwest Shelf Project has continued to expand to meet the growing demands of 2 fast-developing nations. A third LNG train was completed in 1992. The fleet of LNG carriers servicing the Australia-Japan trade route has grown to 8. Offshore, construction and installation of a second major gas production facility, the Goodwin A platform, was completed in early 1995. Goodwin A has since established an outstanding record for safety and efficiency, and has greatly enhanced the overall reliability of the Northwest Shelf Project. A third offshore facility, the Cossack Pioneer, was also commissioned in 1995. This floating production, storage and offloading facility produces crude oil for sale to Australian and overseas markets, as well as piping additional gas to the onshore processing plant. Around the giant steel legs of the North Rankin A platform, a new marine ecosystem has been created. Plant, mollusk and coral growth provides food and shelter for a variety of fish and other marine life, a testimony to the careful management of this pristine environment. Meanwhile, back on the Burrup, the performance and reliability of the unique air-cooled LNG trains has been exceptional. Production capacity has been enhanced to some 25% above design, enabling the project's Japanese customers to take more than their contracted volumes almost every year since LNG production commenced. This extra capacity has also made possible the sale of additional cargoes of LNG to Spain, Turkey, South Korea, and the United States. Australian LNG is now set to play an even bigger role in the international gas industry. A highly successful exploration program has confirmed that the Shelf project has sufficient gas reserves to begin planning for a major expansion to meet the growing demands of its Australian and overseas customers. Projects under consideration include a second offshore gas trunk line, enhancements to natural gas production for the Western Australian market, and a potential doubling of LNG export capacity. The efficient, clean-burning qualities of natural gas ensure that it will remain in strong demand and keep the North West Shelf project growing and earning export income well into the 21st century. Success, the final element, has been added.